Okay, Shalom Aleichem, Rabotai. We are continuing in the Masechet Sanhedrin in the Talmud Bavli. We are holding on Mem Amud Bet. We're at the two dots, about I don't know, 15, 20 lines up from the bottom. In the English, we're on 40 before in the Art School edition, where it says Rabbi Yossi Omer. Okay, so this is going back on the Mishnah. We want to turn back for a moment. The Mishnah 40A1. So we started off that there were 7 investigative questions. And the 7 investigative questions included which cycle of Shemitah, which year in this cycle, which month, which day in the month, which day of the week, which hour, and which place. So those are the 7 investigative questions. And Rabbi Yossi came, and Rabbi Yossi said, not 7, but 3. Be'ez Yom, which day, Be'ez Sha'ah, which hour, and Be'ez Makom, in which place. Now we already saw from the Gemara last week. According to the Chachamim, it seems that it's a Doraita. We had the old Zera Shavod, we had the Darash Hard to hate him, Darash to hate him, Darash to hate him, and that's when they need 7. The honestly doesn't seem to be holding that anywhere in the Torah is telling us you need to ask 7. It seems, as we're going to learn the Gemara now, 40 before, that Rabbi Yossi has one goal in mind, and his goal is, do I know when it happened? And according to him, you need 3 questions to find that out. Let's take a look. Tanya, we're right there. Amal Lahem, Rabbi Yossi Lechachamim. Rabbi Yossi said to the Chachamim, so the Chacham said you need 7, Rabbi said you need 3. So Rabbi Yossi says to them, L'divrechem, Misha Ba'al V'Omar, Emash Hargo. If witnesses come and say, yesterday, this man killed. So they said yesterday. They're already identifying when it happened. You're going to ask him all these 7 questions. You don't need to ask him, well, he already told you when it happened. He told him it happened yesterday. You don't need to ask him which set of Shemitah cycles, right? Which one is it in the Yovel? Which is the first one, second cycle of Shemitah? Which year in the Shemitah in that cycle? You don't need to ask any of those questions because he told you it happened yesterday. So you're going to ask him all those questions? So the Chacham said to that, to Rabbi Yossi, so Amar Loi, you're saying you need 3 questions, right? But according to what you're saying, Misha Ba'ova Amar. Someone comes now and says, Achshav Hargo. They're killing now. He's killing him now. So if he's saying you're killing him now, Amar Loi, did the judges say to him, Be'ez Yom, Be'ez Shah, which day, which hour, which place? Why need to ask which day, which hour? If they're saying, the witnesses are coming and saying he's killing him right now, then you already know it's now. According to you, there's 3 questions to ask. So why do I need to ask them if I know it's happening now? I don't need to ask what day and what hour. And the Chum say what? Rather, even though it is not necessary, even though it's really not necessary, Chum say, the guy comes and say it happened yesterday, right? Reminon ole, we're still going to ask it. Keder Shimon ben Elazar. Hachinami avagad lo tzarich reminon ole. Keder Shimon ben Elazar. What's the story of the Shimon ben Elazar? The Rashi tells us, we learned this way back, 5 dafim back already, that the Beit Din, sometimes what they would do, when they would have witnesses and they're thinking they may be saying a lie, they would walk with them, keep walking with them, keeping them busy. This way, like it says in Rashi, to make them tired, to exhaust them. The Amar Misayin Hayu et Ha'edim Makom L'Makom Kadesh Titaref Da'atan Alein V'Yechzeru Bahen. You walked them from place to place, and this way they would give up lying and they would say the truth. So the Chum are saying the same thing here. We know what happened. He said it happened yesterday. And we're going to ask him all these questions in order to harass him, harass the witnesses. So if they're lying, they'll give up the ruse and they'll tell the truth. That's why we say keep the 7. So what we're coming out with at this point, that the Chachamim are holding, as we saw last week, that there are 7 questions, and the Torah indicates that there's 7 questions. And we're going to ask them regardless. Because even if we could figure out what day it happened, remember the whole importance of knowing what day it happened and where it happened is in order for other witnesses to be able to come and say, that couldn't have been because you were with us somewhere else. You need to have hazama in order for it to be kosher edut. Possibility of hazama. So you have to ascertain which day. So, and the Chachamim say, we're going to ask you all the time, no matter even if we know which day it is, because harass the witnesses. This way we'll know for sure that they're saying the truth. What comes out so far is that Rabbi Yossi says, all I need to know is when it happened. Now, what about the Chacham's question to Rabbi Yossi? The guy comes and says it's happening now. Rabbi Yossi, he says, usually most testimonies happen the next day. Meaning, we know already, people, when something happens new, something happens right now, people are talking about it. You leave it for later, people are not going to talk about it. So he says most people who are coming to be witnesses are coming immediately. They're coming the next day. So if they're coming the next day, all I need to know now, ask them which day, which hour, and where. And that's it. That's all I need to ask them. Akshav Hargo, Lo Shkia, Berov Ediot. But who is this to come and say, this is happening right now? Akshav, the guy is killing him right now. That's not something that's Shkia. Not something that happens frequently. So it comes out that Rabbi Yossi holds. He says, you know, we have to ask 3 because that's the most common case. People come and say it happened yesterday. They can't say it happened yesterday. Then also use 3 questions to get it set. It seems to Rabbi Yossi, and this is what note 26 is talking about here, is that if they didn't come and say it happened yesterday, they come and say it happened a year ago. So then Rabbi Yossi would agree that you need to ask more questions. Whether you need to ask 7, or maybe less than 7. According to Rabbi Yossi, you need to figure out when and where it happened. And as many questions as you need. It might be 7, it might be 5, it might be 3, it might be 1. The reason why he says you need 3, because that's the case that's more frequent. Since that's the case, the more it's frequent, that's why it brings down 3. But it's lavdaka, not necessarily 3, according to Rabbi Yossi. It could be more, it could be less. According to the Chachamim, is dafka. It's necessary that it be 7. Okay, there's a Torah, and there is a reason because we want to harass them to get the truth. Okay, so far so good. Any questions on that? Fine. Now, the Mishnah brought down another 2 questions that we have to ask the witnesses. Now, these were not part of the investigative questions, or were they part of the Chakirot, or were they part of the Bidikot? That was last week's shir, right? According to the Meiri, these 2 questions were Drishot. These were a separate category, but they're very important to answer them correctly, because otherwise the case cannot move forward. And the Gemara says, Tanya Rabbana, they taught in a Braita, Makirim atem oto. They asked witnesses, did you recognize the victim? What does that mean? Nochri harag or Israel harag? The question is asked in order to know if he's chayav mitah. Okay? If we killed a Jew, yes. If killed a goy, no. If killed a person with a zar, no. Then they ask him, they ask the witnesses, Tretembo, did you warn him? So did you give warning? But it's not enough that they just gave the warning. Now we're going to see what needs to come with the warning. very nice that you're giving the guy a warning. So hitartimbo, did you give him a warning? Then kibul alav hatra'ah. Did he accept the warning? Did he acknowledge that he was aware that what he's about to do is forbidden? But not only that, hitir atzmo limita. Did he say, I know I'm going to be punished and I'm going to do it anyway? So, and then, himit betoch kede dibur. Did he kill within the time it takes to say Shalom Aleichem Rabbi? Okay, so listen what the Gemara just told us. So we know that in order to be Hayavita, you have to give him warning. And the warning has to be, this is a sin you're about to do, and this is the punishment for it. But now we learned that he has to accept the warning. It's like on your app, you have to click OK or accept. So you give him the warning, and he has to say, I accept. Then you tell him you're going to be punished with mitah, and he has to say, that's okay. I want to get punished with mitah. I'm going to do it anyway. So he has to accept the death penalty. And then he has to have killed within a few seconds, as long as it takes a Shalom Aleichem Rebbe, from when you gave the warning. All right? And Rashi says, because if you want to wait a little bit, the guy would say, I forgot the warning. It's more than like 3 seconds. He would already forget the warning, he can say. And then you can't punish him. You can't give him a mitah. So it seems rather strange, right? That you give him the warning, he has to accept the warning. He has to accept that he's going to be killed for that. And he has to kill or do the sin within the time it takes to say Shalom Aleichem Rebbe. Okay. Yeah, seems so. Right? It seems very lenient. But it is. And now I would understand how to me I understand now when it says that they didn't kill someone and once in 70 years, and even that was called a evil bedin, right? Or a harsh, cruel bedin, because they would kill. Because if he has to accept the warning and accept the fact that he killed, who didn't accept that? Most people would say, I don't care, don't talk to me. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, we have to learn more, see what happens. All right. What happens if he was doing Avodah Zarah? Ovid Avodah Zarah. They asked him, was he worship Avodah Zarah? He at me of it, which Avodah Zarah? Did he do the or of it? Did he worship the Baal Peor, which they would defecate on? Or the Markulis of it? Or did he worship the Markulis, where they would throw stones on the mercury of Avodah Zarah? And then they would say, Uma Ovid, and what did he worship them? How? Right? Because there are 4 types of worship that no matter which Avodah Zarah you're doing it to is considered halachically worship that you're chayav mitah for. And this is busy buach, the slaughtering, right? Karbonos. Bikitur, with burning of the sacrifice. Binisuch, with pouring of wine. And behishtachava, and with bowing down. So you have to ascertain what he actually did in order for the case to move forward. Okay, now, where do we know this from? Where do we know that a warning is necessary? That without a warning, and with all the things that we said about the warning, you can't move forward on the case. So Amar Ula, Minayin Lahatra'a Min HaTorah. How do we know that Hatra'a, warning, is from the Torah? So we're going to bring 4 different teachings of where we learn it from. And we're going to see why we need all of them, or at least 2 of them. We're going to see. Shenema. So he brings a pasuk. It says, "Ve'ish asher yikach achato bat aviv, or bat imo." If a man takes his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother, v'ra'a et irvata, and he sees her erva. And the pasuk continues and says, "He tira et ervato," and she sees his erva. Chesed hu b'nichretu. So chesed, what that means, when we get up to the pasuk in Vayikra, we'll deal with b'nichretu. They get karet. Le'nei b'nei amam ervat achato gila avano yisa. He revealed his sister's nakedness. He's carrying a sin. So now it says, the pasuk said, if he saw his sister's nakedness and she saw his nakedness, the Gemara says, Atu b'riyat tali milta. Do they get cut it just for looking at each other's nakedness? That's not the way it works. It's if they were together and they had relations, then you get cut it. So what does it mean to see? The sin is not to see. That's a different avera. Lack of tzniut, of other issues. But it's not for, we're not getting cut it for that. Ela achiruhu ta'amo shel davar. See when the pasuk says, and they see, means you have to show him the reason for the sin. The ta'amo shel davar, the reason of the problem. You have to show him why he's going to be liable. Meaning you have to show him, tell him, this is where you have to give the warning. You have to tell him what he's doing wrong. Now, it's not for karet to tell him. You don't tell him, oh, by the way, if you're going to be with your sister, you're doing sin that is chayiv karet. We don't say chayiv karet because karet is done by Hashem. It is where the person dies early and he's spiritually cut off from the Jewish people. Look at the last line in Rashi, from the word ve'im enu enion lechiv karet, the had the inch shemaim din shemaim hu, the had din shemaim hu. It's a judgment of shemaim. And you don't need warning. The kami shemaya gilia im shagihu or made it. Because in shemaim it's clear if what he did was on purpose or by accident. Remember, you can only punish someone if he did something on purpose, right? And that's why you have to give a warning. You tell him what you're about to do is wrong. And therefore, you know he's doing it on purpose. But you don't need that when it comes to karet because Hashem takes care of karet and Hashem knows if someone did something on purpose. So you don't need to give him a warning for karet. So what? Tenayehu, we're at 41A1. Tenayehu inyan le malkut. So that's why you're going to keep it for malkut because the halacha is any sin in the Torah that says you're chayav karet, the bet thing can still give malkut for those sins. So if a person comes and would tell this brother and sister, what you're about to do is a sin, then chayav karet, and the bet thing can give you malkut, and he goes and he does the sin, and he accepts the warning, and he accepts the punishment, and he what's it called, does the sin within Keter Kedei Diror, then he's going to be Hayav Malkut and Hayav Karet and Shemayim. And that's how we see it from the word of Vira'ah, that they saw the Erva. And it can't be that they actually saw it. That's the problem of relations, and therefore the word means that they saw the issue of it. Okay? That's one way to know how you have to give a warning. And Chizkiah learns, the bright of Academy of Chizkiah learns what? When a person will plot against his fellow to kill him with arma, with trickery, what does this mean? Now, the way Rashi understands this is that the pasuk could have said in the past tense, if he plotted to do such a thing, misses his punishment. But the Torah doesn't do that. The Torah uses a lashon of the future or lashon of the present. Yazid, when a person will plot, what does it mean? That means that the person is doing the plot now. Once we gave him the warning, not that he's already done and he gets punished, but rather he's doing it now once he got the warning. And now he's doing it. That's note 3. If you see the verse, therefore uses the future tense, he will plot to indicate that the person committed the crime with constant awareness of his actions. The level of consciousness can exist only if he is warned immediately before the crime. Okay. Similarly, the Academy of Rabbi Shmuel learns the same way. Rabbi Shmuel and Tana. It says by the Mokeshesh Etzim, the one who collected the wood, right? They warned him. Shehituba v'adayin hu mikoshesh. And he's still gathering. He's gathering the wood. Doesn't say he gathered. It's saying gathering the wood. And they gave him the warning. And he still continued. So it's not using a past lashon, using a present lashon. And therefore, it means that once he got the warning, he was still doing it. That's why he got punished. Devei Rebbe Tana, Rebbe Hanasi, he learns it from the case of an adulterer, a man who's with a married woman. It says over there that he's going to get punished al davar asher ina, for the reason that he afflicted the woman. Now, Rebbe Hanasi learns, don't read al davar because of what he did. Al aske dibur, because of the statement, the talking, the warning. That's why he's getting the punishment. So what do we have? There are 4 different teachings. From the erva, from the killing with trickery, that's your present, future lashon. You have Mekoshesh Etzim, present language. And you have Rabbi Yehuda Nasi who says, Al dibur, al iskei dibur. And that's the proof that you need to give the warning. So now that we have 4 different teachings, we have to understand why there are 4. Why can't one of them be enough? So the Gemara says, and it's needed. If the Zohar were to write sister, it's only in cases of malkut that a warning, you need to give a warning. And maybe when it comes to cases of capital punishment, maybe you don't have to give warning, because maybe, malkut is not such a bad sin. I mean, it's bad, but it's not like you're killing somebody. And therefore, maybe, okay, so you have to make sure to give warning. You don't want him to get malkut, will make it harder. Make sure the warning was given, it was given in time, it was given, he accepted, and all that. When it comes to someone who killed, they want to kill. Therefore, you don't have to give him a warning. Maybe you think that. Therefore, the Torah says, the person who plotted to kill someone. To kill. I would think, if it just said about the guy who planned to kill somebody, I would say only in those cases the capital punishment, because it's with a sword you kill him. And if you kill with a sword, that's the lightest of executional punishments. And therefore, in the lightest ones, okay, we'll have to give a warning. But perhaps when it comes to more stricter punishments, I would say you want to get him punished, and we don't care about the warning. You don't need to give him a warning. Therefore, when it comes to skila, stoning, perhaps not. So therefore, it tells us the case of the Mikoshesh Etzim, who's Mechalel Shabbat, who got stoned to death, and the adulterer who gets stoned to death. So therefore, we learn by M also. The Gemara says, one second. V'tarti v'niskalin lamali. Why do I need 2 skila cases? If I already know that in 1 skila case, I already know it goes everywhere. Why I need 2? Tarti v'niskalin lamali. But Rabbi Shimon, remember it goes to like Rabbi Shimon. La'atuye nisrafin. Rabbi Shimon said, according to Chachamim, skila is stoning is the worst punishment, the most painful, and most harshest of punishments. So if you have it for that, you can learn everywhere. Rabbi Shimon holds no, sreifa, burning is the worst. So if you only have skila, you can't learn burning. But if you have 2 skilot, so then 2 stoning cases that teach you have to give warning, so you can learn 1 for skila and 1 for sreifa, and then from that you can learn everything. Now Rabbana, according to Rabbana, who's saying skila is the maximum. So why do you have to say it twice then? The Gemara says, sometimes something that can be learned through a kal v'chomer, the Torah would write it specifically. So you're right. According to the Chachamim, Sreifa, you can learn just from one skila case, but the Torah sometimes would teach you even something you can learn from a kal v'chomer. It would say it again. Therefore, it said it again. Now the Gemara says once again. So just say it by the skila cases, and we'll know for everything, including the malkut and including the sword. So write it twice for niskalim. So I know sreifa, I know skila, fine. And we learn the rest from that one, right? Because if you have the higher kal v'chomer, you learn from the rest. So Hachinam Gemara says, true, you could, but milta dati kal v'chomer, Torah because of law kira. Sometimes you can learn from kal v'chomer, the Torah would say on its own. So sometimes it can happen. Talking a lot about kal v'chomer last week's and this week's class. So it's an interesting idea from the parsha on the kal v'chomer. We know one of the 10 places in the Torah that we have a kal v'chomer was in this past week's parsha, Parsha Ba'era. What was the kal v'chomer? Right, the beginning of the parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, the Jews are not listening to me, so how can Hashem listen to me? How can Paro listen to me? Right, Moshe says to Hashem, the Jews are not listening to me, so why would Paro listen to me? And what was Moshe's reasoning? Moshe's reasoning was, he said, the Jews have mikotze ruach, they're very short of breath, because there's a lot of work that they're doing. So all the Mefarshim say, what type of kal v'chomer is this? Paro is not mikotze ruach, he's not avodah kasha. Moshe is saying, the Jews are not listening to me because they have too much work, so why would Paro listen to me? And that makes no sense. The kal v'chomer makes no sense. It's a bad kal v'chomer because Paro is not short of breath. Paro is not under a lot of work. So maybe he would listen. So that's the famous question all the Parsha asked on the kal v'chomer brought down in this past week's Parsha. So there's a Sefer Ora Yashar. He gives an interesting answer. And he says that the kal v'chomer wasn't that. The kal v'chomer was a little different. Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Hashem, look, the first time I came in Perek Dalin and I told the Jews are going to get freed, the Jews believed me. Right? They believed me the first time. Now, the second time around when I come in and telling them, they don't believe me. Right? Paro, the first time I came, he never believed me. So if the Jews believe me the first time and now they don't, then Paro didn't believe me the first time, he still won't believe. Right? It doesn't fit very good into the pasuk. Pasuk says it because it's mikotze ruach, avodah kasha. But fine. That's the Ora Yashar's explanation of the kal. But I saw a beautiful, beautiful shot from the Birkat Mordechai, or Mordechai Ezrachi, as well as in the Darish Mordechai of Rav Mordechai Druk, and he writes as follows. What was the whole problem with the kal v'chomer? You want to say the Jews are mikotze ruach, avodah kasha, they're short of spirit, and they are very much under work. And you're saying Paro doesn't have that? It's not true. Paro does have that. What? Paro has shortness of breath, and he has hard work. So they say yes. Why? What would be the reason? No. Anyone want to give a guess? What would be the reason that Paro is short of breath and under a lot of stress, a lot of work? Okay. So they say very simple. Paro made believe he was a god, and as such, he went to the bathroom once a day. Now I don't know about you, but I can talk for myself to tell you that going to the bathroom once a day is almost an impossible feat. Imagine you have to hold it in a whole day until the next morning. Obviously, Paro is in a lot of distress. He's doing a lot of work, keeping all his excrement and everything inside his body. That is a very, very hard task to do. As such, he was under a lot of stress and under a lot of pressure. So therefore, the kal v'chomer does make sense. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Shem, the Jews are not listening to me because they're under a lot of pressure. Paro also was under a lot of pressure, so of course he wouldn't listen to me. It's a nice drush explanation into that kal the chomer. We'll do one last piece of Gemara. I just don't want to go ahead more than we did in the shul. You guys were already ahead last week by a little bit, but I had to go back this week in the shul. So we're gonna do the next piece and then we'll call it a day. Hitcher atzmo lemita. He has to accept himself. He has to accept and tell you that he accepts to be killed after he does this avera. He kills someone, whatever it is. Manalon, how do we know this? How do you know he has to accept the death sentence? Amarava being Temachizkia, Amakra, Pasik says, Yumat Hamit. The one who deserves to die will be put to death. The one who's already dead. Yumat Hamit. Kill the killed. Sheyatir Atzmo Lemita. You see, he releases himself to be killed. Okay? The Gemara doesn't ask how you know he has to accept the warning, because that's obvious. He has to accept the warning. And the Gemara doesn't ask that it must be done within Ketach Kedei Dibor, within a few seconds. Because again, he would say, oh, I forgot. So therefore, those are obvious as well. But this one, he has to accept the death sentence and release himself to being killed. That is a pasuk Yumat Hamet. That the one who is dead gets killed. He has already accepted that and released himself to that. Fine. This is where we'll end. Any questions? I'll take it at this time.